Hi parents and ABA therapists. This is an ABC chart. So many times you'll be asked to complete it to basically figure out what's going on with the child and why the behavior is happening. This chart will be focusing on one problem behavior. You cannot use the same chart for multiple behaviors. What you can do is basically focus on what you're going to observe, what you're going to collect data on, and then start writing down if any of the behaviors happen. So again, you cannot use one chart for example, screaming and yelling and also hitting siblings. You're going to say, I'm going to focus on screaming and yelling, and every time it happens, I'm going to put it down. So we can see a pattern and then figure out the function or the purpose of the behavior. So it says here, for each instance of behavior, record the context of the behavior, the date, the time, the activity, who is there, and the location. Also briefly describe the antecedent, behavior, and consequence. We're going to talk about these in a second. And then based on the observation of the behavior, determine a possible function of the behavior. Okay, usually parents are not really asked to find the function of the behavior. Usually it's a BCBA or the therapists working with the child. But just collecting the data is really what I want to focus on today. So the antecedent, which is right here, it says what happened immediately before the behavior. A lot of times I get ABC charts where it says eating lunch or playing. So that's more of a setting or the environment, but it doesn't tell me exactly what happened immediately before the behavior. So it could be that a sibling said to the child, be quiet, or mom said to the child, please finish your plate. So that's what I really want to see here, what happened immediately before the behavior. So let's just write an example. So mom said, please or eat all your plate. This should only be, let me just figure this out here. Okay, this should only be in this one box here at the first column. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, and then so first what happened is the parent said to the child, you need to eat your plate, and then the behavior happened, so we need to indicate what exactly happened. So let's say we are actually looking at behavior of screaming and yelling. So like child screamed no. So that's like one behavior here we're looking at. If the child did not say anything, we're not going to put down the behavior because, again, we're not putting everything down. We're only targeting one specific behavior, which is the screaming and the yelling. Consequence. So the consequence is something that a lot of people confuse with basically punishment. Consequence just means what happened right after the child screamed. And a lot of people say nothing happened, we just told him to eat again. Well, that's a consequence. Telling him to eat again is a consequence. So that means you spoke to the child and you repeated the instructions. So what happened immediately after the behavior is extremely important for us to know. So you really need to type down specifically what happened. And again, consequence doesn't mean you gave him a punishment or a reward or said good job. It basically means what happened after he screamed. Because it's very important. A lot of times when, say, a parent asks a child to eat and they scream, the parent may take the food away from them to calm them down. That's a consequence. Taking the food away is a consequence. So it's very important to write every specific detail on the ABC chart. So let's write here, for example, after he screamed, parent removed the plate. Okay, Um, so basically, here this consequence is very important, because if this keeps happening every time the child is given food, he's screaming, parent takes the plate away, what possible the function here, the hypothesis would be escape. So the screaming here is, the purpose of the screaming here is that he's escaping the food, or whatever food, It's also important if you want to, indicate the type of food, because maybe with other foods he'll eat them, not scream. So it's very important to write, like, whenever I give him vegetables, he screams. So do not assume. So you don't want to say John got angry and screamed, or parents seemed angry. Like, you don't want to put all these emotion terms. You want to say it's just what happened. So you want, or he got frustrated. Sometimes I see behaviors, Sam got frustrated, but that's not a behavior. I don't know what happened. Like, what is frustration here? Did he kick someone? Did he hit himself? Did he run away? Did he cry? So it's very important to write the behavior as it is, and the consequence, exactly what happened right after this behavior, and also what happened before the behavior is important too, because then we can use antecedent strategies to help this child stop screaming. Maybe we will make a visual schedule with the food every day, so he'll know what to expect that day. So he's not going to scream when he sees the vegetables in front of him. He already knows that he's going to get vegetables, so it wouldn't be a surprise for him, and he's going to get angry. Okay, so antecedent, which what happens right before the behavior, is also very important. Parents are not required to write the function of the behavior, as I mentioned, which is this last column here. This can be left empty. If you're a therapist working with a BCBA, or a parent working with a BCBA, you can leave this empty for the BCBA to figure it out. Just indicate the date, the time, activity, people, and place. Make sure you're using one column for each time the behavior happens, as it mentioned here. For each instance of behavior, you're using a column. So it could be, you could use many charts, many pages, depends on how often the behavior happens. If the behavior happens twice a day, you're using 2 of these columns a day. So, you don't have to use it a lot. But if, say, the behavior happens every 15 minutes, then you're going to go through a lot of pages of the ABC chart, okay? So it's very important to indicate the time. Maybe also some behaviors happen in the morning and not at night, even though the same thing happened at night, like you present food. It could be that the child has some medical condition going on, or he's on medication to have some side effects, so he's more problematic, or the behaviors are more problematic in the morning time. So it's really important to also write the time, like what time was it during the day. Activity is also important. You can also say you're transitioning from one activity to another, It could be both playing activities, but the transition from one to another, that's when the behavior happened, the screaming happened. So try to be as specific as you can when you're writing the ABC chart. Remember, the antecedent is what happened exactly before the behavior. It's not the place or the setting. It's really exactly what happened right before the behavior. So you have to pay attention to every detail in the environment. It could be that someone pushed the child, somebody walked past the child. It could be someone yelling at the child, somebody whispering to the child. Some kids are very sensitive to just someone passing by in the room, or seeing someone who came back from work, if you're working in the child's home. So every detail counts. Behavior, try to be as specific as you can. Don't say frustration or anger. Mention exactly what the kid did, and also describe specific details of how the behavior happened. You can also write the duration. So if he's screaming, is he screaming for like 2 minutes, or is he screaming and crying for 15 minutes? That's also important. Consequence, remember, it's not a punishment. A consequence is really just what happened right after the behavior. And again, don't say people got angry at the child, or ignored the child. You can write it specifically. Mom yelled at the child. Mom removed the plate. ABA therapist left the room. ABA therapist turned her head away from the child. Something like that. And again, the possible function is really, most of the time, is done by the ABCBA, so you don't have to worry about this last column. Thank you for listening.